Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. My name is Stefan and I'm joined once again by Ben. And it's Wednesday, and Wednesdays typically mean that we try to dive into the stats in our database on the Transfermarkt website. And we have quite the doozy for you this week. Ben has been looking through the history books. He's been stuck in the library all week, haven't let him out, hasn't had seen any sunshine in days, and he's put together an exhaustive and extensive list of every single manager that's played for a Premier League club since the dawning of the competition in the 92-93 season. And today we're going to talk about how many permanent managers each of these clubs have had and see if there's any trends to be drawn from it. But before we dive into that, Ben, let's take a quick look at who are the longest serving managers in the Premier League at this moment in time. And I guess there's some familiar faces there, aren't there? There's Pep Guardiola first, Thomas Frank second, Mikel Arteta third, Marco Silva fourth, and then Eddie Howe fifth. But as you take a look at that graph, Ben, you can see that after maybe the first manager or even the second and third, there's quite a notable drop-off, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it sort of sums up the era we're in Premier League. You know, managers are constantly chopped and changed. There's so much pressure to get results, and clubs are often looking for that new manager bounce that comes in. You know, it's easier to change a manager than it is to change the entire squad of players. So we've seen boards with particularly the amount of money that's in the Premier League now often being trigger happy and getting rid of managers. And obviously Erik ten Hag was the latest casualty. But it's quite interesting that only two managers in the Premier League right now have been in their jobs for more than 5 years, which is Pep Guardiola at number one, 8 years at Man City, and Thomas Frank, who recently celebrated his 6-year anniversary at Brentford, and Mikel Arteta is third, coming up to 5 years at Arsenal. But yeah, I think it kind of really shows how things have changed. You know, before, if you looked at that graph sort of 12, 13 years ago, it would have been Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger top, both at the club for over 15 years. So I think it kind of shows the era we're in the Premier League now.
Yeah, shows how quickly time changes. When I can easily remember when Arteta was appointed Arsenal manager and there's still a lot of question marks over him, and now he's seen as a sign of stability. Let's dive straight into the numbers then, and what everyone's obviously here for, to take a look at how many managers each club have appointed. And we'll put the graphic up here, and I'll quickly run through it. Southampton at the very top, 21 managers in 25 seasons. Russell Martin obviously sitting there looking very nervous in our graphic. Chelsea second, with 18 managers. Again, maybe not too many surprises. Then we have Tottenham, Newcastle, Aston Villa and Everton make up the top six. West Ham, Leicester, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Sunderland, Fulham, and Manchester City, interestingly, in 13th. Leeds United, Blackburn, and Bolton there as well. And then you're kind of getting down to and Middlesbrough as well, actually, as my dog takes a very loud drink in the background. I hope you can't hear that. And then you have Liverpool, Manchester United, and Arsenal, who have appointed just 5 managers in 33 seasons. I'm actually going to let you jump in here, Ben, because I don't know if you can hear my dog slurping in the background there. I'm hoping you can, but if you can, I apologise. She's obviously trying to make a show of herself. But over and above that worrying sound, were there any surprises from that list for you? I mean, we'll talk about maybe what it means in terms of success and stuff, but which clubs really stood out to you and maybe surprised you when you put together those numbers?
Yeah, so I originally had the idea this week and was sort of really keen to dig into the numbers for this. And when I thought about it originally, I was expecting Chelsea to be number one. They've obviously, over the last few decades, since Roman Abramovich came in, and that's continued under Todd Bowley, they've become synonymous with chopping and changing their manager. You know, Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League, was sacked not long later. Thomas Tuchel won the Champions League, didn't last too much longer afterwards. You know, they've never really shown too much loyalty to managers, but I was surprised Southampton were number one. I know they've had a lot of managers, and I think they've been in the Premier League for 21 seasons. But to have, 25 seasons in the Premier League, to have had 21 managers in that time is quite remarkable. But going through the list, they've never had a Premier League manager for more than five years. I think 3 years is the longest, which was Gordon Strachan, I think. So I was quite surprised to see them at number one, and yet potentially doesn't bode too well for Russell Martin with them still winless this campaign. I think Tottenham being as high as they were perhaps surprised me, but again, they've not really had a real long-term manager. You know, Pochettino was probably the longest. But at the other end of the scale, you know, I do think it's quite amazing that Arsenal have had just 5 Premier League managers. It's also amazing that Man United have had 6, because all the other teams that have had 6 have been in the Premier League for less than 15 seasons. So for both those clubs, obviously the main factor in that is Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger, who are at their respective clubs for over 20 seasons. But yeah, for Arsenal, I've only ever had George Graham, Bruce Rioch, Arsene Wenger, Unai Emery, and now Mikel Arteta. So it's quite surprising that such a low number. And I think that's probably something Arsenal fans will be quite proud of. I do think as a fan, it's easier to create a connection with the team if you know who your manager's going to be and you know what you're buying into. I do think it's hard, even if you're successful, such as Chelsea have been, it's hard to have that real connection when you don't know which way the club's going and you don't know which manager's going to be in charge.
Yeah, I think Arsenal are the gold standard here, aren't they? Because it's easy to chalk it all up to Arsene Wenger being at the club for the length of time that he was, but they gave Unai Emery time, but perhaps more importantly, they gave Mikel Arteta time. As we said at the start of this video, when he joined the club, there was by no means, this instant turnaround. Obviously, the first season, mid-table club more or less, and they had to really kind of put their faith in him, put their faith in the squad they were building, and now they're kind of reaping the rewards of that as genuine title contenders. And if clubs and fans and people who run football clubs and maybe look at this data, it's maybe more important to look at the Arsenals on this list. Liverpool only have 9 managers as well, obviously because Jurgen Klopp's had a huge amount of time at the period at the club. It's probably more important to look at that rather than the Chelseas and the Tottenhams, because everyone talks about Chelsea and how they have this kind of incredible ability to hack and slash at managers, and that seems to have this kind of magical ability to kind of boost them from one season to the next, especially in cup competitions and especially in Europe of all places. But when we look at that data, Ben, it certainly suggests that Chelsea are the exception to the rule rather than any sort of model that other Premier League clubs should try to follow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Chelsea fans will always come back and argue that we might not stick with managers and stuff, but look at the success we've had, look at the trophies we won. But yeah, I think I agree with you. They are the exception to the rule. And I think you've got to remember as well, they were chucking so much money at players and at managers to get the best in. And some very good decisions were made in the Roman Abramovich era in terms of players brought in and managers brought in. And sort of Todd Bowley's tried to adopt that same changing managers. And we've seen this falling apart for them really in the last couple of years since he's come in at the club. But yeah, if you look at real sustained success, you do have to give a manager time. You look at Manchester City, who have dominated English football for the last, since Pep came in 8 years ago. And I remember in his first season, they got beaten 4-0 by Everton. I think they came 3rd or 4th that season. And there was people saying that Man City needs to get rid of Pep. There was people saying that you can't play that sort of style of football in the Premier League. If Man City had acted like that, perhaps Chelsea, if they were in that position, they might have sacked Pep in that first season, which would have been crazy. And it proves to really sustain success now. And I think particularly to get to the levels that Pep Guardiola has taken Man City, you need to have a long-term plan. You need to look to the future. And, Arsenal, who got closest in the last couple of seasons, they're obviously still not quite there, but they've only got there by looking ahead. When Arteta came in, they thought 3 years ahead. They were buying young players. They gave him back in. They said they're going to stick with him. I just think in modern football, particularly in the Premier League, it's so hard to get to the top if you're constantly chopping and changing. Like we look at Man United in recent years, and there's been no stability. If Ruben Amorim comes in this week, he inherits a squad of players that Ten Hag have bought that he doesn't want, and they've kind of got to start over again. So I do think there's a lot of value in giving a manager time, but of course it has to be the right manager that you're backing.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting enough, you look at the list of clubs on that list, and a lot of them are already in the process of changing the manager. Of course, Manchester United are about to appoint a new head coach. Some of them might have to change manager this season if things don't work out. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou's under a lot of pressure at Tottenham. Newcastle will have a lot of pressure with Eddie Howe, not to mention a number of the mid-table clubs. And even next season, maybe Manchester City could be looking to appoint a successor to Pep Guardiola. Not to mention Maresca at Chelsea. Still up in the air, he's doing very well right now, but the way that Chelsea obviously are, they could have a new manager in 12 months' time. So lots and lots could change over the course of the season, over the course of the coming years. But we wanted to present that data to you guys today to let you know what you think. So you can, of course, let us know in the comments below. What club do you support? How many managers have you watched at your club? Which one do you think was the best manager for your club in the Premier League era? And do you think there's any correlation between the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, trying to give managers more time and bringing more success? Or are Chelsea the option? Are they the format? Are they the template that these clubs should be following to win more silverware? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll speak to you again next time.